Call the Parks and Rec Committee meeting to order. Today is Monday, June 19th. A roll call starting from my left.
Sue Krieger.
Melissa Rhodes.
Bauerheit here. Paul Piccolini and Jill Reese are absent and they're excused. So I believe we have a quorum nevertheless.
Yep, 3 is quorum.
Certified posting of the meeting.
I don't have it.
I gave it to Melissa, I thought.
You gave it to me?
Jim, you just gave it to me. I gave it to one of you.
I can read it off too.
Did I not?
Okay, I'll read it off. I don't see it here. I certify on Friday, June 2nd, the agenda for the Town of Rome Parks and Rec Committee meeting for Monday, June 19th was emailed to the Wisconsin Rapids Tribune at 1:32 p.m. Oh, he was fibbing. Oh, he fibbed. It was posted at the Rome Town Hall at 1:45 p.m., posted at Quick Trip at 3:50 p.m., and posted at Nakusa Port Edward State Bank at 3:55 p.m. from Deputy Clerk Treasurer Wendy Newsom.
Okay, I had it after all. Can we have a motion to approve today's agenda? I don't believe there's any changes.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Citizen comments, do we have any today? We have 2 visitors, but
No comment cards.
they're part of the agenda, okay. Item 6, no action contemplated except possible referral to future agenda. Item 6 is reports on park planning activities, update on park planning activities and construction. The construction continues along on course, I believe, although I don't think they've worked over there since maybe Wednesday, is that right?
I wouldn't be able to confirm that if
Okay.
they haven't been there since Wednesday.
I haven't seen any activity anyway, so a couple of times I've driven by. My thought is that we could possibly get the electric started over there, although we don't need any trenching done until the sprinkler system is completely marked out by Brad. So if you want, I'll send Econ a message to that effect, or you're going to do that?
That's okay, and I can work with Josh just to make sure. I know that they wanted the mason to spray some of the block before that conduit went on it. They're also waiting for that block to get sprayed before the rest of the HVAC stuff would go in. The slop sink and that stuff and that.
Okay, that's plumbing.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's all I know anyway. Grants, we have 2 grants that are outstanding still. The WEDC Vibrant Spaces grant, we pretty much know about that, but aren't talking about it yet, I don't think.
So I did just get an email confirmation that we are, I'm just gonna double check my date, Friday, June 16th, that we can share now, and I'll put out a press release that we did receive the Vibrant Spaces grant.
Yay.
We got the max allocation, which was a $50,000 allocation.
Oh, wow.
So, very exciting. That $50,000 is $10,000 is allocated to signage, $25,000 to infrastructure, namely the band shell, and we have $15,000 allocated to amenities. So that will be our start for the pickleball and tennis courts, walking trail, those items around the path.
Excellent.
The 25,000 was for the band shell,
Band shell.
so that we'll be able to finish that up.
Yep, and then when the band shell is complete, they do ask that we invite the secretary here to take a picture and a photo op for their support towards the project. So we will get some nice statewide recognition on that.
Did they say how much was allocated towards signage?
10,000.
And the other 15?
Amenities.
Amenities.
Yep, pickleball courts, basketball courts, recreational amenities.
That's very good news.
It is super news. And we've known for a little bit of time, but they wanted to release all the projects at a similar point in time.
Yay.
Yeah, so that's nothing but good news. The ARP Community Challenge grant, haven't heard anything from them. Usually we hear, I think last year I heard in June that we didn't get it. So we should be hearing pretty soon. Otherwise, I will contact them and see what the status of that is. The next item, discussion and possible action on the following items. Item 8, approval of the meeting minutes of May 15th. Can we have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Jeff is with us today to do the kickoff on the comprehensive outdoor plan, which we are going to update this year and hopefully get done by the end of the year. So Jeff, it's yours. Take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everybody. I hope everything's going well in Adams County tonight.
Good.
It is.
We could use a little
Very
rain.
nice. And congratulations on the grant. That's a big deal.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So the purpose of the initial meeting is just to talk, to chat about the proposal, to chat about the scope, to consider some dates for the engagement session, to consider dates for the community survey going live, and really to kind of lay out this process going forward so that we can get it going. So with that in mind, the first thing I would ask is, does the committee have a tentative or a preferred date for the community engagement session? And let me follow that with one caveat, and that is for a pretty significant chunk of the month of July, I will be in Savannah, Georgia, and if I do any work, my wife and my daughter will leave me. So I will not be doing any work while I'm vacationing in the southeast part of the United States. So the question I would have then is, are we looking at potentially the end of July for engagement session, early August, anytime in August, September? What is the committee's preference?
And what would be from a Parks and Rec committee actionable items that we would have to achieve before the public engagement session?
Not much, other than to approve the draft survey. At some point, I'll put together the draft survey and ship it off to the committee for your review, and we'll revise it until we get to the point where we're comfortable with it. Generally, we want the survey to be live for about 10 to 14 days, not more than 2 weeks, and certainly not less than 10 days. That's kind of the ideal time frame for an online and for a hard copy survey. And I should say, we've all been doing virtual meetings for way too long for reasons that are all too obvious. You're right there on my camera, hi. But you're right here on my screen. So I'm looking at you right now, even though it doesn't look like I'm looking at you right now. So that'll be the first step. Before I do that, I'll have to get some demographic stuff put together. That's not something that the committee will need to do. I'll be preparing that information on my own. And really, I'll need about 2 weeks of buffer between close of the survey and the engagement session, so I can summarize and incorporate the results of the survey into that presentation. So the engagement session is kind of the key date, and then we back up 1 month plus or minus a week from that date to set the date where the survey would go live. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. So Jeff, I would say the earliest possible date we could have the engagement session would be the week of August 7th then?
All right, so give me a moment. I'm just going to check my calendar quickly. And do you have a specific date or specific day of the
Oh,
week?
I'm
that's preferred?
okay, any one of those dates.
It can't be Tuesday because that's Plan Commission.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was gonna say.
Thursday would be out too. Oh no, I'm in the wrong week, I'm sorry. The 10th is fine.
Yeah.
It looks like, if it will work for the committee, it looks like the following week is going to be better. Tuesday of the week of the 7th is the only night I actually have free right now. I could certainly shuffle a schedule if it can't work for the following week. But
Yeah.
for the week of the 14th, I'm available on Monday the 14th, Wednesday the 16th, and Thursday the 17th.
Yeah, the 17th is out, I would believe.
Because that's town board. It would be, if we couldn't do the week of the 14th, what would the 22nd look like? August 22nd.
22nd is a Tuesday, and it's wide open right now.
My only thought on that would be, we would then have our July meeting to make sure that we looked through the survey and felt good about it, because that would be around July 17th. That would give Jeff
Perfect.
a month, and if we met as a committee on the 21st, if we needed to like figure out any logistics, we'd be able to meet the night before and have it the next day.
Yeah, that's really good, Jamie, thank you.
The gap.
So do we have a time then?
No earlier than 6 p.m.
The gather by the gazebos are different Tuesday, right?
They are the second Tuesday.
Okay.
Presumably at the town hall, correct?
Yeah. I would say 6 p.m. for community, but that's my,
That works.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, generally the engagement session runs an hour to 90 minutes. If it goes longer than that, it's because there's a lot of engagement, there's a lot of questions, a lot of people interested in the process. So 60 to 90 minutes would be a pretty good estimate of the amount of time to set aside.
So if we did 6 to 7:30, and we can make sure we have cookies.
Well, then I'm there for sure. So then we'll plan on a draft of the survey no later than August 7th. Was that the date?
If we could have a draft of the survey no later than July 17th.
Can do. So I guess a request of the committee, and obviously not something you have to answer tonight, but so we did the current plan 5 years ago now, and that's why we're talking tonight. What in the prior to having the results of the survey, what are the needs that you as a committee know of or foresee right now and in the near future? You mentioned pickleball court, not surprising there, that's rather popular. You already have a splash pad, that's the other thing that's popular. In the outdoor recreation plans I've done since the onset of the pandemic, I've noticed that the interest in community centers and indoor facilities has not surprisingly dropped a bit. And the increase has been primarily in any outdoor activities, particularly outdoor activities that have spacing, outdoor activities that are kind of open to anybody at any time to be used. Which again, not surprising, bicycle trails, pedestrian trails are always very high up. So there's been a growing interest in RC stuff in some parts of the state, so that's radio controlled vehicles, cars and such, even radio controlled planes, UAVs. And yeah, so I mean, what is there that you know of that I don't know of?
Well, the band shell that we talked about earlier should be completed about that time, Jeff. We're looking for a mid-August completion of the band shell in Rome Town Center.
And that's also fantastic. I think we talked about that in the original plan. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
The other big project that we're working on would be the Link the Lakes. So we've been partnering with Visit Rome to get a tunnel put underneath State Highway 13 to link our east and west side for pedestrian traffic. And then the ultimate goal is that that trail would lead to an off-road path that would link all three lakes. We know how that path would get to Rome Town Center on the west side of State Highway 13, but then still are planning how it would connect beyond that point.
Sure.
and the other item is also on the agenda tonight, which is the planting of Walden Pond area by 9th Avenue with some native vegetation. We've already placed a pier there in the lake and a kayak launch so that people can kayak through Walden. They can go into Camelot, and if they're ambitious enough, they can get to Lower Camelot without a portage.
It is strong arms. And disc golf,
Yes.
we have entered into an agreement with the school district for 40 acres of land to develop a disc golf and walking path area. We got a lot going on. When you say it all in like roll out.
And actually,
There's a lot
15th,
going on. I've updated, I don't know, maybe three or four, three outdoor recreation plans in the last 4 years of communities I have drafted the original one for, and you've already surpassed the most that any of those have engaged in completing. So,
And-
again, congratulations.
and
I'm shocked.
since you've been here, Jeff, we have, not that the Parks and Rec had anything to do with it, but the Lake Camelot Property Owners Association has put in a new playground over there at their facility, and some new piers, I think, probably since you were here. And also at 15th Avenue, the Adams County has placed a new playground there as well.
And Lake Arrowhead put in 6 pickleball courts at their
Mhm.
chalet
Wow.
facility.
Right.
Oh, and a half basketball court and new tennis courts at their clubhouse.
Yeah.
So basically, you've been sitting around and doing nothing since the last time I saw you.
We can't take credit for all the activity that you are noting.
I mean, this isn't hyperbole. That's really impressive. That's really impressive. Well done. So a couple things that are different now from the original process. One is, excuse me, one moment. Spare you the sound of me coughing. I no longer provide financial estimates or fiscal estimates of facilities, just because the pricing is so volatile and the world that we live in right now. The moment we put together an estimate, tomorrow it's invalid. Either it's inflation or a recession or global supply chain issues or whatever the case may be. So I would be happy to give you ranges of costs associated with certain facilities, but they would be very, very broad. And the second one hasn't really changed because I did not do, architectural and engineering assessments. I didn't have somebody doing architectural and engineering assessments the first go around. I'm not qualified to do that anyway, but in the past, when I've had a community that wanted that work, I've worked with other firms. What I've noticed, again, over time is all that does is effectively raise the cost of the preparation of outdoor recreation plan. The reason I say that is most communities have a pretty good idea of what facilities of theirs need to be upgraded. And knowing what the cost is not necessary to build into the outdoor recreation planning process, right? Because again, it just raises the cost of that. Whereas once you go through the recreation planning process and you've identified specific goals, including, fixing that ball field or repairing the pickleball courts or whatever the case may be, then it's really easy to just get estimates from consulting firms to do that work. So it's not so much about reducing the quality of outdoor recreation plans, it's just making them more affordable and more targeted. They have not in any way thus far affected grant opportunities or anything like that. Most of the firms that do this kind of work have similarly reduced or pulled back from some of that stuff. And mainly because it just wasn't providing the benefit to the clients that, justified the cost. It's not horrible. I mean, it's not like it cost $10,000 to do that, but it was often 15, 20% of the outdoor recreation planning process, and that's not insignificant, particularly if it's not really providing a benefit for the amount of money you're investing in it. So, other than that, the process is the same. One thing I have noticed subsequent to COVID-19, both in terms of outdoor recreation planning, but also in comprehensive land use planning, is meetings are not as well attended as they used to be. And I've done 2 of those wall graphic kind of meetings subsequent to COVID-19, and they just didn't work well. You could see people were not comfortable gathering in big groups around that big piece of paper to throw a sticker up on it like we did when we did the strategic plan and the outdoor recreation plan. So that is still a tool that's available, and certainly if the committee decides you want to add that to it, we can. But I now have a track record of 4 planning processes that it just didn't do what it used to do. So the advantage we have in Rome is we did that all 5 years ago, and I suspect, although the world has changed in some ways, I suspect the preferences for recreation facilities haven't changed significantly. We did the visual preference survey, and we have that information yet, and then we'll have a new survey that will kind of build off those. So I have complete confidence that the combination of the survey itself and the engagement that occurs, the Q&A that occurs during the engagement session, will kind of fill in any gaps that exist from the 2018 process.
Yeah, I would say we're probably not different than any other community in regards to large gatherings, although at our annual board meeting, we had a substantial group of people, and we began some strategic planning then, and we got some good feedback from a number of people. This room here last week was pretty much filled to capacity, so I would say there was 45 people here in this room last Thursday. So we may have a better opportunity than you might imagine.
My apologies. I should have qualified that. The last of these plans that I did with some sort of more interactive in-person engagement was about a year ago, a little bit less than a year ago. I think where we are right now in the state and kind of in the country with respect to our comfort level of getting together again is obviously much changed than it was even a year ago, and greatly changed, over 2-3 years ago. So again, those tools are available if the committee feels there's a need or a benefit from them. I'd be, happy to work out a cost to do that, but I'm confident the survey itself will meet our needs.
Okay.
Yeah, and on the night of the community engagement, offering, if we can offer a couple different methods, depending on what people's comfort level is on participating. I mean, if they are the most comfortable with just writing and putting that on the wall, or if they would like to speak, or just giving a couple variety of methods for participation that night, I think that would be good.
I agree, Jamie. I should say that the cost and the scope right now is based upon a conversation during that meeting, not a formal engagement activity. So it would be an update, a refresher of where we were in 2018, an update on demographics, certainly an update on all the things that the town has accomplished over the last 5 years, a description of the process moving forward. Please, if you haven't filled out the survey, if you haven't filled out the survey by the engagement session, the horses are out of the barn in that case. And really just asking, what is it that you're looking for? Kind of just a conversation, not so much a visioning session or some sort of SWOT exercise or something like that. Now, if you do want that, we can certainly do it. I would just have to build in a revised budget.
If we did even have a forum, if people wanted to provide a written comment, if we assembled those comments for you and sent them to you in one grouping, could we do that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we could put together a visioning questionnaire. There's all kinds of stuff we can do. I just did not include any of that in the scope.
Yeah, and I'm not even necessarily thinking questionnaire, but just some people are less comfortable with the public speaking than others. So even if it's just, did you have comments that you didn't feel comfortable in providing in an open session? Just write it down or provide that very half-sheet brief handout. Sometimes people think of things that night that they didn't, I wish I would have said. And we just provide that to you in a group afterwards. I don't expect, we did it with our strategic planning, and I think we maybe got, 4 additional written comments. It wasn't substantial, but as Supervisor Barhart pointed out, we had like 55 people there that night, so it just gives them another means. just in case.
Agreed.
Any other questions for Jeff? Concerns, comments? So, Jeff, why don't you just also, after the public engagement session on the 22nd, what would be the rest of the process to bring it all together? When would we potentially be looking at like a draft document for approval?
Sure. So once the survey's been completed and tabulated, presented during the engagement session, once we have whatever results from the engagement session available, then I'll begin drafting the updated outdoor recreation plan in preparation for the working session. And the working session is, I call it my anti-pitchforks and torches meeting. It's just an opportunity to present a rough working draft of the outdoor recreation plan with the committee, so that we can refine it before we give the formal presentation to the community. Generally, I need about 2 months from the community engagement session to the first draft being ready. It can be abbreviated in certain circumstances. It can be, stretched out if more time is necessary on your end. But a relatively good idea would probably be the October meeting of the Parks Committee.
Okay.
Again, if we're looking at August 22nd, I would think it would be reasonable to look at October. If for some reason it's not, I would know well before October that we might have to look at November. Right now, my schedule for the fall looks pretty good. I'm not pursuing any additional work. I'm not taking on any new clients, so I don't think there's going to be an issue there.
Yeah, I think an October timeframe fits into what we were initially thinking about anyway, Jeff, so that's good, I think.
Yeah, and I think it gets us to probably an adoption sometime before the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, there are really 2 big grant cycles when it comes out to recreation planning. And the biggest one is in the spring. So there's one coming up in the next month and a half or so. But the big grants, I shouldn't say the big grants, but the bulk of the grants are spring applications. So you'll be ready to roll for those.
Mm-hmm.
Get some
Okay,
more money from the state.
great, Jeff. Thanks for your input and all. It's good to see you again. It doesn't seem like it's been 5 years since we did this, but time flies, I guess.
Well, the goatee's a lot grayer than it used to be, and that's either time or my daughter, some combination thereof. I look forward to seeing everybody in August, and again, I will start preparing a survey really soon, probably before this month ends. Get it to you early in July, give you plenty of time to go over it. We'll go back and forth on revisions. Again, the first survey, I tend to put more in there than my clients would probably want, because it's easier for you as a committee to look at something and take it out than it is to discover something that's omitted from the get-go. So don't be daunted. Generally, I'm looking at 20 to 30 questions in the first draft, and then you'll refine it down to the core of what you need and what you hope to gain from it.
Okay. Thanks again, Jeff. I think we're ready to move on to the
My
next one.
pleasure.
And are you going to stay? Because we are going to talk about some other recreation items if you want or not, whatever.
Well, it's your prerogative. I apologize for the business aspect, but if I stay, I have to charge you.
Bye, Jeff.
You're still here? You're still talking? So yeah, I will get to work on the survey. I'll have it to you. Jamie will give you my email address if you already have it. By all means, any thoughts, any comments at any time, please get them to me. And again, I'm very, very much looking forward to this. This was a fun project 5 years ago. I suspect it's going to be equally fun this time.
Okay, thanks again. Okay, moving on.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
All right,
Good night.
thank you.
Mel's-
I have a question though, since this is our first time doing this, can you kind of give us just a little brief, I'm not really sure what will happen on this day. I didn't attend the last one.
Okay.
so-
Well, the last time we boarded a bunch of ideas that people had about recreation, and then we scored them later on as to which ones were their favorites, and we kind of combined all those scores to come up with a list of things in order that we thought that would be reasonable to pursue. And the core plan itself is probably a 55-page document with pictures in there. It also revisioned what should be the zoning and the actual vision of Rome Town Center. In other words, a mixed use kind of a thing, which would have living people there and walkways for them to be on and businesses that they could be by. So
I
we
think that
haven't
kind of
really gotten there yet, but
grew out of that. So that Jeff started with the court plan, and then that sort of identified that we don't really utilize Rome Town Center as a business park. We utilize it as our downtown.
Yes.
That led to a separate engagement with Jeff and a revisioning of those documents.
Okay.
But yeah, the corp was really, what do we want to see for outdoor recreation, and how would we organize it instead of priority?
So they'll
And,
bring,
a lot of the grants that we apply for require a core plan that's been
Yeah.
updated within the last 5 years or so.
oh, okay.
So a lot of times we attach the core plan or parts of it to grants.
So they bring their ideas, or we present some,
The residents,
bring their ideas
yeah,
in?
they
Okay.
start it out and we kind of
Okay.
finish it off.
And how do we distribute the survey? Is that all online?
It'll be all online. It'll be online. And Jeff will give us some resources, the link and a little bit of verbiage, and then we distribute it, and then we'll, if we share it on Facebook, we'd ask maybe if you also share it. And then he collects all that survey data back. I know the last one, which is the piece that we left out, he did pictures too, like, does this
Yes.
picture appeal to you more than this picture? But since we have that information from the previous one, we should be okay to,
Yeah, we cut that out of the.
we cut that out,
Yep.
yep.
Okay, item 10 then is the Walden Park Shoreland Planting Subcommittee report and the kayak launch. So I think Melissa
Yeah, we're
and Dave,
Still working, we're gonna get it staked out, and kinda go from there, still working on getting, bids. I don't
Okay.
think there's much else to add.
One thing is, just within the last few days, the advice has been released for the 2024 applications at DNR. And one of the changes that'll help just ever so slightly is the matching rate for volunteer labor was raised from $12 to $15.
Perfect.
the other thing that we probably could do right now, if we had the information, is create some signage for the kayak launch and
We're working on that. Yep.
parking area.
Yep, we're working on that.
So, okay.
It seems like the kayak launch has got a lot of interest online. I haven't been out there to see like someone physically use it, but a lot of people have asked questions. Draft, I can see when someone messages through draft,
Okay.
and there's been a lot of interest to where is it?
Good.
Is it open to everyone?
I haven't looked at Visit Rome. Have they got it on their site too? I should probably check
I
that.
think they shared
Okay.
the information, but I don't know if it's listed then someplace separately on the website. We'd have to ask Lisa.
Okay.
Yeah, the next meeting, we'll take care of that. I think Jamie and I can do that, make sure that they have some information on it.
Well, and we're gonna work with Lisa about signage for out there, so.
Okay, anything else on item 10? Okay, moving along, item 11 concerns the disc golf subcommittee report. I know Sue has had meetings with the school officials in Nakusa High School, and they are about to sign it if they haven't already.
Yeah, Jamie and I went, and it was a very positive meeting. There was just a signatory change, I believe, and that was it, right? So I'm not, was it signed?
I haven't gotten
Not
the
yet,
signed copy
okay.
back, but yeah, I
All right.
sent them the updated, the clerk for the school board changed, and
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. And then they also had a representative there, Corey, and I don't recall his last name.
it's cause you asked in this moment.
I'm sorry, that's
G.
okay.
What was it?
Is it start with a G?
No, he's the county health officer for Adams County, and he's also the school board president, and he's a town resident.
So all of the above is great.
Yes. And he will be our liaison. from the school board.
And my understanding is we'll invite him to all of the subcommittee meetings. If he chooses to attend or not, at least he knows that. Was that your understanding too?
Yes, yep,
Okay.
Shibilsky,
There we go.
PH.
Okay. So yeah, so that was very positive. There was even a brief mention that there might be some funding available through the school board.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, Lynn, their, a financial person said that they have, was it chapter 80
Something like
or
that.
account 80?
Yeah.
That maybe that it could assist with some pieces.
So that was encouraging. That wasn't even asked for. It was okay. Right. So yeah, the next steps, I had a draft together of an RFP for course designer implementation, kind of jumped over the surveyor one. So I guess that probably would be the first step once we get that signed agreement back. Okay.
Yep.
Is there it would be pretty it would be a simpler RFP request, right?
I don't know that we'd even have to do an RFP. I just
Okay.
think we would call the major surveyors
All
and
right.
get a pricing of what it would be.
Okay.
So it's competitively shopped and then proceed.
Okay, so maybe next meeting, we just kind of see what we're looking for. I know we need to have it staked out, but how many stakes, and that sort of.
I would think that there ought to be a stake along each lot line, and a line of sight would probably be enough so that we know where, if the hill drops off or something like that, we need another stake to be able to see from stake to stake.
So, yeah, that sounds good. Well,
And the stakes ought to be maybe more stout than just, some of those stakes they have are only 3/8 of an inch wide and an inch,
yeah,
something bigger than that, maybe a 2x2 piece of stake.
We could even see if we provide, and spray paint at the top, if they would take stakes that we provided out there to do the survey work.
okay.
When is our next
Um,
subcommittee meeting?
Next week, I think, 27th?
27th, we have Christmas in Rome.
Did you get a chance to share the draft RFP with Jamie?
I did. yeah,
Okay.
And Melissa.
And I had some comments on that because I was kind of a little bit thinking that for whatever reason you weren't really good with design build concept.
I have to ask that to the town attorney because oftentimes municipalities aren't allowed to do design build because you need to give equal opportunity to both designers and builders.
Sure.
And if you do design build, you exclude people that just design or just build.
Okay, I get that. Yeah.
So I know that there are thresholds for that, so I will ask. But I don't believe that we can because we have to give an opportunity in both cases.
Okay.
Yeah, plus the other thing that came to my mind is we had at least two people who were volunteering to almost do it for the design part of it for a very nominal cost.
Yeah.
And people who were really super involved in disc golf and
Sure, and they might be excluded. I get that, yeah.
so
We
maybe.
still could send them the RFP, and if they wanted to do it at a more reduced rate, we could say just include that in the RFP, right?
Yeah.
We would just ask that you submit something in writing that would say, I'm willing to do it at a reduced rate.
But that's different than providing project management through the whole all steps.
Yeah. Well, well, it was a draft, so we'll just.
It was a good
just,
draft.
well,
Oh, yeah, you could tell
Yeah.
you spent a lot of time on it, so thank you so
Sometime.
much.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
very good.
Okay, so that's kind of where we're at, and it looks like the next meeting is not the 27th, but the 28th.
28th,
Yeah.
27th is Christmas in Rome,
That's
28th, yep.
Yeah, and that was at 4 or 5? I got it written down
Yeah, I think it
somewhere.
was
4? Okay. Yes.
I think that's about it. We won't reach out to the surveyors until we have, or anybody, until we have the signed licensing agreement, but it should be coming soon.
Okay, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Next is item 12, pickleball initial planning. Put together for you a court design that was kind of just a straw proposal. I also showed you where on the park master plan this could fit, which would be directly to the north of the band shell. So, this is what I was talking about here for the park master plan.
Oh, I see.
And then, the bigger sheet here is the layout of the 4 pickleball courts and the tennis court, which could also be a combination pickleball, tennis court, I think it ought to be, and then the basketball court. So, what I was kind of looking for is your feedback on this kind of rough design that I have in place here. And if we're all set with that, if everybody's happy with that, this is kind of would form the basis of going forward with getting costs together and further planning.
Were we gonna kind of wait on the tennis court until we had this, kind of a input from the community if it would be used?
Well, we could certainly use the input from the corp planning
Yeah,
at that
'cause
point in
I
time.
think we were kind of on, are the tennis courts being used at Arrowhead? No. So, I mean,
I asked Joel the same question, because he goes to lunch every day and walks in and out, and he said he's seen people a few times.
'cause I know we did discuss maybe waiting to see what the town input was. I don't know. I mean, we could still.
I know Sue and I went up to Rapids and looked at the facility up there. It's huge. I don't know how well that's attended either. Over at Lake Camelot Property Owners Association, the tennis courts there are kind of in disrepair. And there are pickleball courts that are perpendicular to the ends of
Yeah.
the tennis courts, but they require a temporary net to be set up and all, so it's not probably the best situation.
It's a great question though for the survey, and I made myself a note, I could ask Jeff to put that in specifically. Would you prefer to have a tennis or pickleball?
And/or,
Or.
yeah, that'd be a great question on the survey.
Yeah.
We could still proceed with bids, right? Could we still proceed with?
We could have it bid either way, yeah, with or without the tennis court, because are we thinking that 4 pickleball courts are enough? I think that was the question that was answered at the last meeting or so. And we kind of decided 4 was plenty.
So this is for individual, that's not
Yeah.
like a net.
Nope, there's 4, yep, 4 individuals.
And there's a fence between these 4 courts with a gate that goes between them.
And the tennis court's the one in the middle, which is longer. Okay, gotcha.
This is the tennis court there.
Oh, okay, I gotta pull, I get it. Okay, here we go, I'm looking at this. Okay, gotcha, yep, okay, gotcha.
With Ron here, I was just, then the math works out that you can put, that these 4, and then this would be the tennis, and then everybody's playing east to west, nobody would be north to south.
Right.
Which is ideal.
And you can certainly superimpose the lines of a pickleball court onto the tennis court,
Okay,
and just use the tennis net, a little difference in height, but,
it's not a big deal.
It's the other way around, Jamie.
and that way you could have a 5th if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of places where you see the white lines of a tennis court, and then you see the yellow lines of a pickleball court sort of superimposed, and they extend out a little bit beyond the tennis court, and then you can always.
And they even color the interior of those lines a little differently too, sometimes.
Yeah, that's what you do.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Jamie, it's just the opposite of that. Everyone would be playing north-south.
North-south instead of, sorry, east-west.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sun, it's what you're talking, the system.
So, yeah, I think if we get some input from the court planning on whether or not we have add a tennis court, and if we don't, we'll just skinny it down a little bit and have the basketball court and the 4 pickleball courts.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
On this,
Just go to the mic, just.
Okay.
Thank you.
on this plan, the 60 feet,
This is Ron Blair, by the way, right? Okay.
I start to sing when I get in front of them. The 60 feet, is
Yes.
that for each court, or is that the length on the side?
That's the width of each court.
Okay, because the court's only 20 feet wide.
Well, there's extra area there for people to view it and to provide, well, I mean, we could skinny it down, I guess. I think I made it 60 feet originally because the tennis court required 60 feet. All the layouts that are in here
Yeah, it's symmetrical.
show you
That's
that.
That's,
See.
going horizontally, you've got it at, I think, 120, which is great, because that's 44 for each court with 8 feet
Mm-hmm.
space in between. generally 8 to 10 feet on each side of a court is more than enough. So, I mean, it's 20 feet, if you got 10 feet on each side, you'd only be at 40, not 60.
Yeah, we could skinny it down.
And the concern with having it too much is when you're playing, the balls go too far away. You're chasing, I mean, that's how the courts used to be at Lake Arrowhead
Okay.
when they, I mean, you would hit a ball and you actually had I mean, we had Cabana boys who came up and all they did was sit in chairs and chase the balls and bring them back
Yeah.
because they ran so far away it wasn't worth it. And what you might want to consider doing is making these off-center and having an area for people on one end. Take some of that extra space and put it just on one end or the other, because people are gonna congregate on one side or
Right.
the other. And then have a gate, right,
By the center there, yeah,
well, a gate in the middle to get from court to court, but a gate to get off
right.
the courts completely, then you could have them just on the end, one end or the other, and then people will walk in and congregate right in that
Yeah,
spot.
I had 3 gates to get onto each of the courts here in the park master plan. And the only reason it came out to 60 feet was because the tennis court requires a 60-foot if you're gonna
Sure,
go.
sure.
So we could skinny it down to
Yeah, I
40
mean,
and
like
scrunch
I
them
said,
together a little bit and,
But use some of that on one end for
A viewing
spectator
area. Mm-hmm.
Because you're gonna have benches and chairs, and, I mean, we're old, we sit down a lot, you know, when
Yeah.
we're playing, you know, so.
okay, that's a
But
good idea.
60 is a lot, and that would keep your costs down, because that's a whole lot less asphalt.
Either that or with 120 feet, you might wanna put 6 courts in there.
Should, okay.
If there's demand for that.
With that amount of space, you could. You could. The eight on the ends, that's really pretty much the minimum. You can't make that any smaller, because we play off the outside of the courts.
Right.
But other than a person running off the side once in a while, you just don't need that.
Yeah, I think we're just skinning them up to 40 feet each and
Yeah,
then
I
scrunch
can-
them together a little bit and make a viewing, spectator area.
I can't tell you right off the top of my head what the Pickleball Association recommends, but it's like when you bring an architect in, they're always recommending way more than you need, you know, so we kind of ignored that because it's just too much, you know, and I think this might even fall into their recommendations, but it's clearly a lot, you know, so.
Plus it keeps us, there's a nice expansive green, cause it's still a park. And I guess my feeling would be, don't concrete more than you have to, keep the green that's around that area.
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause that
it
goes.
doesn't really show on this drawing here how wide the whole thing should be.
Crank one of those out for you and ship it over to you if you wanna see.
If you would, yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, don't let their minimums really necessarily, I mean, you can go smaller than their minimums and still be very adequate. I mean, they're looking for complexes, you know, and I don't know that we are.
Okay.
I mean, the less feet of asphalt you put down, certainly the more reasonable price. We did just buy gates for Lake Arrowhead, cause you and I talked about that at some length. We actually, our club paid for gates in between the courts, because, you know, you have one here and that's fine, but you show it as a gate. We need a gate there because the balls otherwise go in behind people's feet. And we had somebody step on a ball the other day and fell, and, you know, we need gates in between the ends, you know, cause the balls come in behind them and it's real dangerous. So we're actually buying those for Arrowhead just to get them on there.
But we're okay the way we have it here, right? Okay.
Yeah, these mounted fence.
I believe so. Bob, is there a fence between the pickleballs?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's where the gate is here in the middle.
yeah,
Okay,
yep,
And then there would be a gate here, here, and here as well.
okay.
perfect.
Just as an aside, and then I'll shut up. When we started, we played out at the chalet where the 6 courts are now, and they were they were tennis courts in total disrepair. Nobody used them. I mean, we had cracks this big. We filled them with blackjack, and we put masking tape down and used them for years like that. Nobody ever came out and played tennis on those courts, ever. I think it'll come back to some degree. I mean, everything comes back to some degree, but we don't see it. I play up at Witter Field a lot too, and I think I've been there maybe 100 days, and 2 days we had tennis people playing the same time we did. They're just not being used. You just don't see it, you know.
Well, whether we have a tennis court or not, the 4 pickleball courts, is that enough? I mean, we've already, I thought, agreed to 4, but.
Well, I think with Lake Arrowhead having, you know, 6 already, we often fill up, you know, we play 9 to 11 Monday through Friday, and we often fill up all 6. And that's mostly Lake Arrowhead people, but we have some people too from other places. I would expect most of the Lake Arrowhead people will probably stay there,
Yeah.
you know, but we do have people coming from out of town. I mean, the other day we had 8 people from Rapids playing there. Cause I said, are any of you guys Lake Arrowhead members or guests or anything? And they kinda went, no, and I said, well, have a good day, goodbye. I mean, we're actually policing the courts during that time. Because when you get up to Rapids and they hear, here's courts in Rome that you don't have to wait for, they'll be heading down this way. So you're making public courts, you're gonna get people from, you're gonna
Yeah, I
get
have a
visitors.
friend who lives south in Rochecree. He's looking to come up here to play.
No, we've got people from Adams,
Yeah.
Arkdale, Saratoga, let me say this right, Buren, you know, so they're
Well,
all over the place.
if worse came to worse, we could always convert our basketball court to another,
Or start charging.
to pickleball courts.
No.
And I mean, if there's somewhat of a wait, it's not gonna be substantial, right?
The assumption is you play every other game, so one court actually holds
In the community room here, how many courts are there? 3? 2.
and that's, well, you've seen it, Jamie, there's times in the winter, obviously, you have the snowbirds, you know, and so we're real busy before the snowbirds leave and when they come back, otherwise it levels out, you know, so. But we've got 100, as of today, we've got 140 people in our pickleball club. And 120 of those are from Rome, approximately. So it's, there's gonna be the numbers for sure. But like I said, if you put in a tennis court, you can always make that an alternative pickleball court too. People will play on that if you just put some pickleball lines down on it. They'll play
Sure.
on it. The end, it's 4 inches different in height, that's all it is on the net.
Okay.
And they'll play on it.
Yeah, nobody's gonna quibble over the net height, I don't believe.
We're
Unless
happy
we
to just be awake and not wet ourselves.
hold a tournament, we can always lower the net.
So we could proceed with getting bids and then just to wait and find out what the survey says before we proceed.
Yeah, plus, we've still got some planning to do here as to how much money we've got this year and how much grant money we're gonna have to ask for. So,
I can get
we're,
100 pickleballers in here if you want.
In here?
Sure. No, huh?
Why not move to the big room?
okay, anything else on pickleball? I had down here, Jamie, that we should probably be thinking about an RFP for design and project management. Again, that's kind of a design build kind of a thing, so it'd be nice if we could do it that way, but,
I can ask for clarification as far as costing, or if it would include that. I know for building construction, it has to be kept separate. So, we can ask for clarification on that.
in talking with Joel Barth, he was very, very complimentary with the people that they used, of course, but more than that, he was emphasizing the point that they didn't have to worry about anything because they were just on cruise control all the way through. Okay, that brings us down to item 13 then on our agenda, which is determine the next steps to move forward with park development. I think it's just a little bit too early to know what our carryover is gonna be. I find that kind of amazing here. We're sitting almost in the end of June and we don't know what the carryover is from last year.
CLA, I promise you, is working hard on it. There is just only so many of us left. So I know that they're working hard on it, but they also have additional requirements from the state every year in getting things filed and ready. It shouldn't be much longer.
Okay, and then as soon as that's done, then Jamie and I at least are gonna sit down together and go over all the money that we think we have coming in this year and what's going out to pay for already committed funds for the park band shell. So then we'll get an idea of how much money we have to put forth for other things. And there are other things that we need to start thinking about, and that is landscaping around the band shell, additional signage at the park for the band shell and also for the kayak launch area. So there's other expenses that we have other than just pickleball that we probably want to wrap up before we get too far. And we were also going to talk about how we're going to memorialize the people who gave money to the park master plan. And we ought to start thinking about that, whether we want to have like a memorial wall, do we want to embed it in sidewalks? How do we want to do that? I think it'd be easier to maintain a wall almost than a sidewalk.
Some sort of signage would be easier to
Yeah.
maintain, yes. And we've got, I think we said we would recognize donors $215 or more for the band shell. And then we also, wanted to memorialize the donation of the Rhapsody notes within that signage too, so, yeah.
Maybe once it's complete, we can go over there and kind of look and get an idea from.
Yeah, I think if you look online, you might find a whole bunch of them. I haven't looked too much, but I did look one day and I saw a couple things that kind of caught my eye. So I will try to capture some of that for our next meeting, okay? I guess my thinking is I'm leaning towards a cement wall of some kind that we could update as people give more money. And it might probably incorporate that into this, just a sign of Rometown Center Park.
Maybe thinking on the outside of the band shell or on the inside where the covered area
No, I'm
is?
thinking at the entrance to one of the walkways to the park.
Oh, okay, so not necessarily at the band shell,
Right.
okay.
That's what I was thinking at least. Kind of open to suggestions. If anybody's got a better idea, fine, bring it forward.
Well, and we've worked with Graphic House on some things, and maybe they would have it, I'm just making myself a note, maybe one of their designers would have some sort of ideas or input that they could give, and actually mock something up. That would be, it's always more helpful when you have kind of a picture to look at.
Or we could ask Jim from our architect if they have any ideas too.
Yeah, he could mock something up. It's just, you know, if we worked with someone like Graphic House, then they could print it and install it, and which would might be less stressful than us, you know, working back and forth on.
And for landscaping, are you thinking just around the sidewalk areas or?
Well, they've pretty much torn up everything over there.
Okay.
Plus the weeds have taken over on the walkway, the nature walk that goes around the park. That needs to be probably killed, and then we were always gonna top it with more like limestone screenings or fine limestone topping. So as soon as the band shell's done, I think we want to address that at least, because people will be coming to these events, and I think,
I walked at the dog park last week on their path where they have gravel, and I actually walked off the gravel because it was not fun to walk on the gravel, but the screenings would be better. They have 3/4 inch there, but
yeah, the screenings are very fine.
3/8, but there is no limestone available. It'd just be crushed rock, so, and
Okay.
it's not available right now, so it'd have to be maybe next year. The pit doesn't
Okay.
have any, so
It could be granite, that crushed granite too,
it's a little expensive.
is it?
Well, you have to go up to Mosinee to get it. Best thing would be
Yeah.
to wait till Seven Sisters has it available, and that'd be your cheapest way to do it. It's a crushed gray,
Yeah,
real
right.
fine, yeah.
You can't
But
build
it's-
you can't build a road over it, but for walking, and I think it would be
Yeah,
fine.
it's just not available right now with their out, so, and it'll be a while, so. But yeah, that's where I would get it from.
Are they crushing it, bringing it down from
No.
Mosinee?
No, the Seven Sisters pit does their own crushing,
Oh, and then it'll just crush it
but they must, with all these the road projects going on, they must be using it in that. We can't even get any right now.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't think it's been available over there at Seven Sisters for 3
It's
years.
hit and
or so.
miss. It's hit and miss, but that's the most, economical way to do it is to get it from them. If you get granite, you're paying for trucking, you're not, and that, it's a waste of money, so.
Okay. Anything else for item 13 then? I think we pretty much covered everything. Okay, that brings us to next meeting agenda items. This gal, I forget her name right now, but had contacted us again because she was here and talked about smokeless parks, and I think that was probably before last October sometime. And we determined then that we didn't have a problem yet, and we kind of decided that we didn't really need it. And I told her that we would at least determine that again, and if we decide that we want to have it, we can certainly invite her to the next meeting or some other meeting.
I don't know that we would,
Nothing's really changed.
I don't think anything's changed. What do you think?
Alicia's her name, and I think she was just of the mindset that, as the band shell would be completed and you would have increased public presence and participation, setting that standard now, rather than if it did become an issue later with increased people in the park. I think that was one of her thought processes.
Yeah, the only thing is now people could sit out there in a lounge chair and smoke and leave cigarette butts on the ground, I guess, too, right?
But we could always put no smoking signs there ourselves too, couldn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Without making it a town-wide.
They had some opportunities to provide signage, I think.
Yep, and it would be just for, I think that she was requesting just for town parks. Not that it would be town-wide, but that it would be
Yeah.
applicable to town parks. No,
Yeah.
smoke-free in the town parks.
Which would include like Twin Lakes and stuff like that, right?
If that's what we desired, yes.
Yeah, or we could just make it around the band shell.
If you wanna think about it, and then we can.
I think we
see-
got more important things to work on right now, personally. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if anyone's opinion's gonna change. That's just my thought. That's my thought. I don't know what everyone else's
Yeah.
thought is, but.
I think if it got to be an issue with the grounds crew and mowing and then, changing these filters into a puff ball, if, the lawnmower went over it, then I think we'd probably have an issue with it, just from the maintenance point of view.
I would hope people be respectful. At the car show this weekend, I did not see anyone smoking
Didn't either.
anywhere around where I was. I mean, I did see someone smoking, but they were way away from people. And I did not see any cigarette butts laying on the ground.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll get back to Alyssa then and tell her that maybe she ought to come and contact us again in another year and see how it goes. But for right now, we're okay with it, without it. Everybody okay with that? Jamie, you okay?
I think, it's also nice to invite her to a meeting just to have the conversation and consideration. I think she would appreciate just addressing the committee about it. From a healthy Adams County perspective,
Is she an Adams County employee?
I believe she handles Adams, Juneau, and one other county.
Can we,
On a volunteer basis though, right? She's not an employee of,
No, I believe she is a staff member for, I don't wanna get it incorrect.
well, that's okay. We'll invite her to come present and let's just kind of hold it off till
yeah,
like
let's
December.
hold off, fall, cause we got too much going right now, I
Okay.
think. But
The
yeah,
other
I'd
thing
say fall.
that I did not put on the agenda here, and maybe we can talk about it now, depending on how much you want to follow rules of order. But I didn't put anything on here about the swap meet, and we need to start thinking about that and planning about that. So that would definitely be another agenda item for next time.
Yes, and that'd be a good thing. We could maybe even at that, planning session, we could advertise at that, could we?
Mm.
You know,
Yeah,
when there's people
absolutely.
there. So, yeah, we do need to get working on that.
Do we need to talk about it today at all, or would we have enough time
I
in
think-
July?
I think we'll be okay for July.
Because we're talking about July and all of August,
Yeah.
basically, until Labor Day.
Yeah, we get,
We've got a lot of the background work already done, so we
Yeah.
should be okay.
then we just gotta kick around expansion ideas.
Yeah, what else are we gonna allow besides sports equipment?
And the percentages, like limiting, we don't want people coming in with little $2-3 items. Those are just gonna have to be we talked about stuff like that.
Yeah.
We'll have to look back in our notes, but we have some notes on that.
Yeah, I've got a computer I wanna try and donate or get rid of. So if you could expand it to that, that'd be great.
Good
We
luck.
can talk about it more at next week.
All right, it will be on the agenda for next time, okay? Anything else that anybody wants to add? You know, just contact me
Okay.
any way you want during the month here. I'll be glad to add it.
Sounds good.
Okay, the next proposed meeting time and date would be Monday, July the 10th. Is everybody okay with that?
If we can do the 17th, because that's when we'd have the survey.
That's right.
We can talk about the survey,
Yeah.
The 17th?
the 17th.
Because the survey is going to be,
He would have the draft to us before that. but
okay.
Slightly before that, but then we could get it fleshed out on the 17th.
Let me just check and see. Yeah, the 17th is fine with me too. So we'll change that date to July 17th at 5 PM. And having done that, I think that concludes our agenda, so I will adjourn the meeting. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you.
Meeting's adjourned.